Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Okay, there we go. All right. So, as I said, I was going to do another survival bracelet. So this time we are going to basically make a similar bracelet to what we did before, but we're actually going to use, and we're going to use clasps here. And this clasp is a survival clasp, and you can get different ones. This one has a whistle. I would demonstrate it, but you have to blow very hard, and when you do, it's very loud. So I really don't want to get into that. It does have a, that was working here a minute ago. It does have a compass here that was actually working prior to me recording here. It's working kind of, like this one here. You can see this one's pointed that way, and that is north, north-ish. I don't know exactly. I know north is that direction. So this one kind of pointing north. And so, yeah, so this is, oh, and the last thing, this here, the center post is a ferro rod. So if you don't know what a ferro rod is, it's something that you can use to maybe make a fire. So let me see if I can demonstrate this here. And see if we can see a spark. There you go. So the problem is these sparks burn at like 1200 degrees or some crazy thing like that. So every time I've done it, you can see I've kind of melted my my mat a little bit. Don't tell my wife. It's a fairly new mat. So, but yeah, so you can actually light a fire. Now, I can tell you a ferro rod this small would be very difficult to use and control it, but it would be possible. So yeah, this gives you, and this would act like some sort of a knife type of thing. It's what you scrape your ferro rod with, but you could use it for something else, you know, if you need to, and it could do something. I'm not sure, but I have seen some where it's got a little blade, you know, so long and different things like that. So we are going to make a survival bracelet using these clasps. So let's go ahead and get this in here. Now, as before, the point of the survival bracelet using the paracord is you want to have plenty of paracord, right? So what I've got here is should be about 13 feet. I took 9 feet-ish off of a this piece, which was right around 22 feet. So that should, if I do my math right, that should leave me with 13 feet. So what we're doing is we're going to find our center here, okay? And the reason why we're going to do that is because we're going to feed this up through. Let's see if we do it to the bottom. So the first one that I did, and I never showed you this part. So basically, we're just going to make a little hitch here. So actually, I don't want the hitch on the bottom. I want it on the top. So in order to do your hitch, get this pulled back through. I just want to keep my center point because I don't want to have to pull that all back through and find the center point again. So in order to do a hitch, you just basically make a loop like this. We'll just feed this down through here. And I'll get in there. Sometimes you have to have a little friendly persuasion. There we go. You take your loop, and then we're just going to feed the cord up through there, right? So we'll just pull the cord through. Oops. Sorry for bumping you guys. And then we're just going to pull that tight. Okay. You don't have to be like super tight. We'll get it tighter later. And then what we're going to do, get these cords separated. This is going to come up and underneath, and this is going to feed through here. So get these two fed through there. Come on now. Now one of these is the end that I burnt. It's probably this one here. Let's do this just for the sake of argument. Let's go ahead and cut that off at a bit of an angle, and then we'll reburn it, reseal it, as it were. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough to fit up through here. See, that's much better. Okay. So this will just feed up through. Oops. Man. There's one problem with this right here. Really sorry about that. It is, I bet there's only 10 to 12 inches in between where I'm working and where the camera is. So sorry about bumping that. These long cords don't make it easy. Okay. So now that we have this through here, I'll just pull this tight again. What we're going to do is we're going to feed this down through here. So we're just going to keep feeding this through. And this core is going to be extra wide in comparison to, say, a normal paracord bracelet that I might make when I use a clasp, right? Because of the main goal of having plenty of paracord to do this with. So pull this through, and there we go. And then we're going to feed this side through again from the top. And like I said, this core will be extra wide. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we've got that through here and through there. And now all we have to do is bring it back up from the bottom here. And then we can start doing our Solomon knot. So this will give you guys an idea of how you would start this, which is always good. Seeing once you know the pattern, the Solomon knot, and the way to do that knot, which you'll see it again. You've seen it a couple times, and you're going to see it again in this one. Once you know that pattern, then it's just a matter of knowing how to get started and then how to finish it off. How to tie it off. So I'm just going to try to pull this a little bit tight, because I want this to be a little bit tight. And so when I pull this, it's got to pull all the way through. So we're going to kind of tighten that up a little bit. Tighten this side up a little bit. Okay. So there we go. So we've tightened this. And I pulled our hitch back. And I don't know what color this is going to look like as far as this paracord goes. In my monitor, it looks kind of brown. It might look black, maybe even. But in reality, it's, good old-fashioned army green. It's not much of a different shade than my bracket here, really. So it's just kind of interesting how the light affects how different colors look. So so again, we're just gonna cross over with the right side, go over the top of the core, and then we take this one up and under. Okay, and this one that crosses over, it's always going to be crossing over. Right, so it's always crossing over. And we're gonna try to get that good and tight, because that's basically locking this off, and that's gonna keep our core as tight as we can. So this next knot here will pretty much do the trick as far as getting it good and tight. And yep, I had a blister on my finger from doing these and these bracelets, because this so happens when I pull it tight, you can see how I grip it right there. I have a blister right there where that was. Earlier this summer, I actually made so many of these that I had a pretty decent callus going on that finger. And so much to the point where I thought it was one of the most crazy calluses I'd ever had. I basically took a set of dikes and cut it off, because it felt weird. I felt like my hand was numb, or that part of my hand was numb. It was like really strange. But yeah, so now we just kind of keep weaving through. And one little thing I want to show you guys. So this is the one I keep going back and forth with. You'll notice it's just kind of coming off the end here. And all I keep doing, and I'm just laying it across like this. So like this time I'd go like that, and then once it's done, I'm just going to lay it across like this. So this one's just going back and forth over the top, you know, real nice and simple. This one's the one that I keep having to pull through and everything. So yeah, so it's you're only, you know, like when you have these longer ones, you always have to deal with the extra paracord, but you're only pulling the one side. Actually, I'll turn it like this so I can show you the whole thing. So I'm making this for my wife, and her wrist, I think I mentioned, was 7 inches. And so just to give you an idea of how much wider this thing becomes when you get the weave in there. So you can see here, I'm doing an 8 1/4 or 8 3/4 essentially is how long this is going to be. And so it's this extra cord really chews up quite a bit of that diameter when you start folding it around and put it on a wrist. So I thought that was kind of important and might be interesting for you guys to understand. That's really, a lot of times, that's the hardest thing, is knowing how long that you really need to make it in relationship to the size of somebody's wrist. All right, so we're coming up on the end here, and I actually just kind of ran out of things to say, so I stopped talking. But oops, see, so this is what it's going to look like if you mess it up. All right, so I did something wrong there. I don't know what I did, but let's try that again. There we go. That's right. Okay. So yeah, so I stopped talking in the middle there because I had nothing else to say, nothing to really add. I mean, I could keep jabbering on about stuff, but you know, who wants to hear that? There we go. So yeah, sorry. You didn't even get to see how ugly that looked here a moment ago. Anyway, sorry about that. But so I'll edit out the silent part because nobody wants to just watch me do this, especially after you've seen it a bit. So let's see if we can. I'm gonna take this knot back out. I'm gonna see if we can kind of stretch it a little bit. So push it down. And you can see you push it down quite a ways. So I pushed it down quite a ways there. And we're working with about 14 to 16 inches still left over. And off of 13 feet. So you have a couple different options of what you can do. Like if you want to be able to keep plenty of paracord, you know, you can finish this off with a couple different options. All right, so here we go. We get to the end here, and now we have to figure out how to finish this off. And I have a couple ideas. Now, one of the ideas, my wife probably wouldn't care for it, so I might end up just burning hers. I think I'm going to give this to her. She was kind of talking about wanting one, so I did make it to fit her. So you can see how small that is. Now, like I said, this is 9 something. Let's see here. If we measure from here to there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8.5 to 8 3/4. My wrist is 8. Okay, and well, my wrist is about 8 1/4, and I would not be able to get this thing latched on my wrist without pinching my skin. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, it just kind of gives you an idea of how long, or, you know, how much. You can see how thick that is there. But anyway, let's finish this off. I'll show you kind of an idea that I had. So because of the fact that you want to leave some left over, you want to have plenty of cord, so, but you don't want this to pull through. So my first thought is we're just going to put a knot, and we're just going to run this knot all the way down, right? So we'll have a knot right there, so that won't pull through, and then we can always tie off, you know, another knot here. And if you know more about knots, you know, you could do that. So you can just kind of tie off a knot here, then maybe cut this end, right? Just cut off that little bit. You probably wouldn't want to have a big long bit hanging off, but maybe you would. And then again, you just tie this part off and run this knot up to the end here, and so we can just kind of feed it down, and that'll lock it in place. And you can actually cut it there if you wanted to, but that way I can tell you, if you see mine, so you can see mine here, that once you burn that in and melt it really good, you have to actually cut that to get that to pull back through, because it's kind of melted into this other cord next to it. So yeah, so melting it, you know, melting it and right on the ends there, you wouldn't want to do that because of the fact that it would make it so difficult to pull this loose. But you know, tie the knot in here, and then, you know, you could cut it, you know, maybe out over here someplace, right? You could cut it here and then still have a little bit left over, and maybe tie another little knot in there. Like we could walk this knot down, because we didn't tighten it up. All right, so we could walk this knot down, and maybe I'll do that for my wife as well. We'll just walk this knot down, and we'll kind of treat it like a little tassel, right? So we'll tie that off there, and yeah, we'll just have another little tassel off there. Well, and I'm not even going to cut, you know, do it too close. Matter of fact, I feel like that is too close. So let's do this. Let's hold this. Let's hold that. See, I made that. Let's get that over there. See how close that is? It's a bit close for what I want to do. So we're just going to kind of loosen the knot a little bit, and proceed to pull that through a little bit more. Now, if you plan better than I do, you wouldn't have to do it like this. You know, you could, there we go. There we go. Let that knot move down there a little bit. Now we can melt this end. And this will melt really good. All fat like that. We'll lick our fingers. We're going to squish it down a little bit. That way we don't have a big mushroom. Okay, so we've kind of done that. Now we'll melt it really good now. There we go. So you can see that. That's good and melted. Alright. We'll give this side a little tassel. And do the same thing. So, still, not so, things are still a little bit warm. Okay. Now what you really want to do, this is what I should have done the first time, so you can see how far away I am. We'll just cut it there. See, we leave ourselves a bit of extra room. So like I said, you can get plenty of these ends. I get melted, sorry. So you get plenty of these ends, and this one you can see it's a bit different color. And I don't know if you can make out the color with the light and everything, but this is actually you know, like the weird green for the glow in the dark stuff. If you remember when you were a kid, all the glow in the dark stuff was always this kind of weird color green. That's what this is. This will actually glow in the dark. So I've got this color. I've got the OD green, which the OD green would have actually looked better, I think, with this, but I wanted a bit of a contrast. So I got the OD green, and then I actually have an orange, like a safety orange. So when it was all said and done, we had, let's look here, we had, This comes out to 10 inches. Plus, we started with 19 or 13 feet. So we're at 19 inches. So just over 1.5 feet left over after it's all said and done. So that'll give you an idea of how much you would probably need if you wanted to make one just like this. You don't have to have one of these special clasps. You know, they're just really, it's more of a novelty thing than anything. So now the compass is starting to work right. So the compass is not the best, but it'll get you kind of pointing in the right direction at least. Like I said, the ferro rod, you wouldn't really, I mean, you may be able to use it like this and get a spark, I suppose, but it might be easier once you unravel this. But then again, you may not have to. You could probably do a spark from there. And then, of course, your whistle. Like I said, you have to really blow into it to get it to work, and it's super high pitched. So I'd probably blow all your eardrums out if you're listening to it. But yeah, there you go. This is the alternate survival bracelet. It's got slightly more survival, but yeah, hopefully you like it. And maybe if I do another one, we'll do something a little bit more fancy, depending on if anybody wants to see something more fancy, and we'll go from there. Maybe we'll try a different pattern or different weave next time as well. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.
You have to make a basket and bring a toy.
I'll be in my bunk.